Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, to Face Palm Sunday.
Alright, so this video is about, can an atheist be moral?
Absolutely, yes. A skeptic can be moral, an atheist can be moral, a religious person can be moral, a Buddhist person can be moral, a Wiccan can be moral, a Satanist can be moral. Yes, 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 yes.
It's building upon what I've already said on this young channel as it relates to morality, specifically how it relates to atheism, and more specifically, how it relates to materialist atheism.
Materialist atheism, aka nihilism. He doesn't say that, but that's what he's talking about. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but nihilism is a very, very small minority of atheists and people alike. For those of you who don't know, nihilism is basically the rejection of all principles pertaining to religion and just normal moral principles, and believes, if you're a nihilist, that the life around you, everything around you, is absolutely meaningless. I do not adhere to this type of philosophy. I am not a nihilist, and I don't know any nihilists personally who think this way. My life is not meaningless, and very few, again, a very, very, very small minority of atheists actually believe in nihilism.
That is this: if we are merely material, or if you believe that we are merely material, then that simply means that we are robots bound by the properties of matter. We are programmed by our DNA and continually reprogrammed by our environment. So we are victims of this programming.
To a very, very small degree, excuse me, you are correct. That we are programmed. The difference is that you're not understanding is that I choose to ignore my programming all of the time. Evolutionary speaking, we were designed to procreate, have sex, survive, and eat. This here is a piece of succulent bacon, one of my favorite meats. Pork. Vegans, shut the fuck up. This does not concern you. I love this bacon. And right now, although I'm hungry, I have not eaten breakfast, because this video is the first thing I'm not filming this morning, I am not going to eat this piece of bacon. Despite my impulse, despite the smell, despite knowing that this has meat in it, and it has certain chemicals or toxins, or I don't even know, amino acids, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, that I crave in this piece of meat. This could be applied for any type of food, too, that I'm craving this right now. But I'm putting it down on my desk, and I'm not going to eat this piece of bacon. Because right now, I just chose not to go along with my programming. So you seem to think that we're robots and that we're all pre-programmed to do certain things and act a certain way, when in reality, that's not true at all. While we're pre-programmed, we have the ability to choose. And right now, despite me just giving you an example of me not eating this bacon, I need to eat this bacon. Delicious. I chose to eat that. I want you to pay attention very carefully. I just demonstrated the difference between me really wanting this and putting it down and picking it back up and then eating it, between choices, and impulses. You have to understand that choices and impulses are completely two different things, and depending the type of person you are, we can act differently, and we can choose to either accept that impulse, whether that be eating bacon or meat, or not accept that impulse and become a vegan, for example, if you won't want to eat that type of stuff. Furthermore, I would ask you to explain how people who are brought up in certain environments, for example, myself, being brought up in a Christian environment, can all of a sudden choose not to be a Christian anymore and reject Christianity. If I was programmed into religion, which technically I was because I was born into a religious household, how all of a sudden did I drastically change my entire worldview? I made a choice. Being programmed does not mean that you have to act or be a certain way.
We're victims of what we're made of. And so technically, we're not responsible for anything we do.
I don't even know how you got to this conclusion. We're not responsible for anything that we do? Yes, we fucking are. We are responsible for the actions and things that we do.
We are victims. And so when you judge somebody else, you're kind of not being fair in light of your worldview, because that's just the way they were made, right? Not only that, the judgment that you make about that person arose from chemicals in your brain. And chemicals are neither right nor wrong.
You, sir, are very, very correct here. Chemicals are neither right nor wrong. However, neither is this, my firearm. This is neither right or wrong. But if I choose to do something with this weapon, to choose to kill someone with this weapon, in the same way, our chemicals, we can choose to use those chemicals in a negative or a positive way. I can use a gun to kill someone if I want to. It's the same type of reasoning. Chemicals are not right nor wrong, but you and me can in fact control our feelings, which can jurisdict what we may or may not do, the actions that we commit. I could get really mad at someone and go out and kill someone with this weapon because I wanted to, because my feelings were so, I used my feelings to validate me murdering someone. Or I can choose to have control of my feelings and being mad at someone who flipped me off during driving down the highway and not react and not harm anybody. It's that simple. This is like first grade logic. I don't understand how you're not understanding this.
And so, in that sense, you're also being inconsistent with your view of yourself and the world around us. The best thing you can say about Hitler or the man that just beheaded a journalist is, that's different. I wouldn't do that.
No, 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 and no. Are you seriously telling me that I can't seem to understand why these atrocities were committed in the first place? So you're saying my only response is, that's different? No, I can understand why certain atrocities were made, and I will stand and I will condemn those atrocities that were made. I condemn the actions of Hitler. This reporter who got his head chopped off, I condemn that, but at the same time, I understand why his head was chopped off. Islam is a scary fucking religion.
Moral judgments are out. Completely out. You and I are just robots. We don't judge hydrochloric acid for being corrosive. Okay, so that's mainly what I've said so far on this channel. Now, that does not mean that an atheist, materialist, cannot help Aunt Betty across the street, or give to a person who has a need, or, as Jacqueline Glenn just did, have ice water dumped all over you to benefit a cause. So all that I've said so far does not mean that those things cannot happen. And people look at those acts of kindness and they say that they're good. And to summarize the rest of what I've said in previous videos, that is because God has written a law on our hearts that says love is beautiful and selfishness and hatred is ugly. He's written a law on our hearts to show us right from wrong.
God wrote the law on our hearts? So he essentially wrote the law, worship me.
That is the standard. It's an absolute moral standard. It's objective. It applies to everyone, no matter what they think.
You can believe in objective morality as much as you want, but unless you can substantiate an understanding as to why you think we have objective morality, other than God wrote it in our hearts, you have absolutely no argument to even argue for objective morality. It doesn't exist. I don't believe it exists. Subjective morality is based upon our environment and then culture and how we are grow up in the different environments that we live in. In certain other places around the world, it is immoral to do certain things that would be normally considered normal here. In other places around the world, it would be completely moral things, such as cannibalism, and I'm just using that as an example, would be immoral over here.
So that's pretty much the rest of what I've said. But going back to those acts, people look at those acts of kindness and they say, those are good. And they're good. Now, what really matters, however, is what God thinks of those actions.
If it really only matters what God thinks, then why am I or anyone should be listening to you? You just said it only matters what God thinks. So in other words, you have no ability or no place to speak because it only matters what God thinks. So anything you have to say to me or anyone means nothing.
As the Bible says, man looks on the outside appearance, but God looks on the heart. He knows the thoughts in the mind.
God knows all of my thoughts in my mind, okay? God, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? Come on, tell me. Speak to me, motherfucker. Speak. What am I thinking? How does he know? I had this voice in my head that just told me what I was thinking, and I was thinking of another man's cock. God knows all my perverted thoughts? Jesus Christ. This is embarrassing. Like, man. He knows everything that I think of, like every sexual thought. Like when I'm thinking of banging someone, woo! God knows that I'm thinking that, so he must feel so ashamed to create someone like me who thinks these immoral actions all of the time.
You say, that's crazy. Well, if God is infinite, right, then technically every point inside your brain, God fills it with all his fullness.
What the fuck does that even mean? Every point in your brain God fills with his fullness? Like his semen? Or his mystical chemicals that God instilled? What is his fullness? That just sounds creepy, man.
When you're infinite, that's just the way it is. Nature is not infinite. God is. So he sees everything from start to finish.
He even knows how many pubic hairs that I have in my down below region. He even knows about my genital warts. God damn it! I have no fucking privacy even in my own home.
So what matters is what God thinks.
You keep saying what matters is what God thinks. What matters is what God thinks. Okay, then now you have to establish that... How do I say this? Now I have to establish if it only matters what God thinks, what about these other gods that other religions believe in that otherwise what your God thinks would be immoral or wrong to those other people with those exact different types of deities? How can I discern what the Hindu God thinks, or the Islamic God thinks, or Buddhists or Buddhism, you know, all these different religious deities and gods? How do I discern which is the one that I should really care about and what he thinks of me? You have yet to establish why your God is the one that I should care about what he thinks.
What God is going to do is look at the intentions of your heart, the purposes within your heart that performed that action, and take those purposes and match them up to his purpose for you being here. Did the purposes in your heart match up with your purpose for being on this planet? If not, then it's not a good deed. Okay? And let me explain that. God has given us a law, as I've said. Love God, love neighbor as self. But ultimately, the ultimate end for which we were created is to glorify God.
Question for you. As you can tell, I'm asking you a lot of questions because I want to see an actual Christian be able to answer these substantially. Without these, God said it, this is how it is. Rather explain it. Why were we created to glorify God? If God was so powerful and almighty to begin with omnipotence, omnibenevolence, and all these different qualities and attributes, why would he need us to be able to stroke his ego? I don't understand that. There's no reason for God to even create us to begin with when he had everything he ever could possibly need or want, and he had all the power in the world. So why should we humans glorify something when it already is all-powerful and doesn't need any more glorification than it already is because he's so almighty? If he's so almighty, why does he need our glorification? That makes no sense.
To love him, to enjoy him, to serve him, and to experience life with Him, to glorify Him as supreme, and get great joy from it. Now you might think that's egocentric, but I'm going to upload another video to say why for God that's not egocentric, that it's actually love.
Well, when you make that video, you can be sure that I will be watching that video. And when I watch that, depending on what you see, because I have yet to see a Christian establish a really good reason as why we should glorify God out of love or whatever, I will respond to it.
For God to do that. But that's His purposes for us. Our ultimate end is to glorify God. Hence in 1 Corinthians 10, it says, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. That includes helping Aunt Betty across the street, having ice poured all over you. We have a subordinate end to serve our fellow man, but our ultimate end is to do it to the glory of God.
Tell me why. Why should we do this? Oh, I can't understand people like yourself who just randomly spew things on why on things for we need to do this, but you don't offer any reasons as to why we should be doing it to glorify God.
So if you do a moral act, and we refer to that as like I say, Jacqueline Glenn having water dumped all over her that's ice cold, but you don't do it to the ultimate end for which you were created, it's absolutely in vain. And so what Christians are to be doing is going about helping people in need, doing these acts of kindness and love towards others, and doing it to the end that God would be glorified. And in my case, it would be simply to go out, help people, and say, I'm doing this, my friend, in the name of Christ.
So what you're saying here is that Christians doing these acts are not actually doing them because they love people, because they want to be kind, but they're doing it for an eternal reward, which is heaven, and to glorify this God. So their intentions for behind these acts are not even fucking genuine to begin with. Is that what that's pretty much what you're saying? Because you do good deeds, you get to heaven. That is a pile of bullshit. I don't help people or make videos on depression to get recognition or to be good guy Repsion. I do it because I genuinely want to help people, whether or not they ever even acknowledge my existence or that I've helped them. They don't need to acknowledge me and glorify me and say, Mr. Repsion has helped me and done all these things for me. I'm not about that. I don't need my ego stroked like that, like your God does. That you do good things for Him, not because you choose to do them because you want to do them and help.
Who is love. And by the way, do you know Christ? And give them the gospel, which is going to show up in the left corner, the bottom left corner at the end of this video.
And this is where I'm going to stop you. I'm going to challenge you, enjoy Christ, the exact same challenge that I challenged the guy I made last week. And I have yet to see a Christian respond to me regarding this. I want to see someone do it. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Why is the gospel of Jesus Christ, or God, the Bible in general, truth? How do you take the word truth and apply it to your Bible, to your Jesus, and your God? How do you discern that that is truth? Because people always say, the Bible is truth, God is truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. How is it truth? The guy I challenged last week never even acknowledged. He made a video response to me, never acknowledged that I made a video response to him, and never made another video to my challenge. Prove to me that Jesus is truth. I want to see how someone can establish that this Jesus, this God, the gospel of Jesus Christ, is the truth. I will listen. Believe me. I want to see someone do it. Anyways, this guy goes on for like another 2 to 3 minutes reading from the Bible, which is utterly pointless because there's no reason using the Bible to argue a point. In any event, thank you guys for watching this video. My friend Jacqueline Glenn also made a video response to this moron. I felt more inclined to respond to this video, and I actually sent her this video of myself because he mentioned my name in an annotation and her name for the Ice Bucket Challenge, saying that we did the Ice Bucket Challenge and that what we did was really nothing, didn't mean anything doing the Ice Bucket Challenge to raise awareness for ALS, which kind of just pissed me off. And when someone addresses me directly, I feel more inclined to respond. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to check out Jacqueline Glenn's video. The annotation is right here, all that red. You can click that to watch it, and her video is linked down below if you would like to watch it from there. In any case, thank you guys for watching. My name is Daniel Solzbach, also known as Mr. Repsion. Happy Facepalm Sunday, and peace the rep out.